Welcome back to another episode of the IFC's Individuation podcast. I'm Dr. Lahab Al-Samarrai. With me today, the usual wrecking crew. Dr. Eric Tomlinson is with us today. And Dr. Lisa Hung is also with us today. So, how's everybody doing? You want to say hello to our listeners, our viewers? Actually, they're both listeners and viewers since we have a podcast. And it's also, you can see us on YouTube. So,
hello and welcome, everyone.
Welcome to all listeners and participants.
Participants, it was what? You're welcoming us to the mix. Oh, good job. Good job. Okay. So we're back. And in this week's episode, we were trying to find out. This is another, this is a German fairy tale we're going to do today. We're back with von Franz's second volume of the collected works. The hero's journey. So this is a tale from the collection of German fairy tales Sense Grimm. The Diligent and Lazy Fisherman is the name of the story. It tells us particularly clear the flight causing the hero to embark on his journey is a meaningful situation. At the same time, it is seemingly intended by the unconscious to enable the conscious mind to gain access to new values. So, who is going to read for us today?
I think Eric is going to be reading for us today.
Eric, okay. So, Dr. Eric is going to read. He's going to read the story, and then we will go into the analysis of the fairy tale. So, keep in mind, this is to help us enable the conscious mind to gain access to new values. So, Dr. Tomlinson, take it away, please.
I am honored to, especially since Dr. Lisa does such a wonderful job reading herself. So thank you for permitting me to enter your realm, Dr. Lisa.
Welcome.
I love this story, by the way.
Move the train. The train needs to move.
The train is moving. Okay. Once there was a diligent but poor fisherman who in the space of 1 year caught no fish, and to make matters worse, lost his wife and his only son. But he submitted to his fate and held through with trust in God and patience. One evening, it was the eve of St. Andrew, his patron saint. As he was walking out near the sea, he could not help from crying out loud. It became darker and darker, but in his sadness, he did not notice. When he finally came to himself, it was pitch black. He wanted to go home, but saw in the distance a small flame dancing on the waves and coming towards the shore. He watched as it came swiftly to shore, busied itself around a little hut, and then returned again to the sea. At a certain place, it lit up more brightly, and then flitted again to the shore. Now the fisherman had heard legends of a light at sea that pointed to sunken treasure, but he was so timid that he turned his back and started to go home again. Suddenly he heard someone calling his name. The poor fisherman turned and saw behind the ruins of the old hut a pale old man wearing clothes foreign to this place. The strange figure looked at him with such pleading eyes that the brave fisherman felt sorry for him and asked, "Did you call my name, master? Tell me what you wish from me." The old man answered, "Andrew, you have cried so hard over your misfortunes that I would like to make you a rich man. But to grant this, you must do as I say." Now the poor fisherman became afraid, for he believed the man to be the devil incarnate. He touched his crucifix and answered, "No, I do not need your help. I would rather remain poor than take from you." Then the old man laughed and said, "You think that I am the devil, and you are mixed up. You have complete trust in me, and it will certainly turn out. You can have complete trust in me, and it will certainly turn out in your favor. If you will, take this ring here and come back 3 days from now. Go right at midnight, just a short way out into the sea. You will find 3 upside down pots. You must lift up the middle one. This will redeem a poor, unfortunate, drowned soul. Then you must return to the shore and do not pay attention to anything you see or hear. I will reward you richly, and you will become a happy human in this world." With these words, the old one disappeared, and at the moment, an old rusty ring fell at the foot of the fisherman. But the fisherman could not muster the courage to carry out the task and spoke to himself, "Why should I bother myself with the souls of the drowned? Why are they so crazy as to be kept in a pot turned upside down?" The fisherman turned and went indifferently back to his house and thought no further about the strange happenings. But this was not correct, as was soon apparent. In the very next days, he lost the rest of the money he had saved over the years. Then he became sick and landed in a hospital for 9 months. When he came out, he was poor as Job, and there was nothing else to do but go begging. Then he met again the flame and the old man. He found the ring and decided to dare the adventure. He came to the land of the dead and the drowned, and as a result of the advice of the old man, he escaped the dangers there and returned home with treasures. Nearby was a lazy fisherman who had heard the story and tried to imitate the adventure, but failed miserably.
Okay. Thank you. It's an interesting story.
Yeah, it is.
It's a story about great loss. At the beginning of the story, as we could see, that the poor fisherman lost his wife and his only son. So he's lost all things that connect you to this reality. So if you had a family and you lose your entire family, you basically get disconnected from this reality, because this reality no longer functions for you. You function differently in this reality because you had a different unit that you functioned with. Your reality changes, and therefore the way you view the world changes because it's traumatizing. So this is about trauma. This story is about trauma and what trauma does to us, how it tears us apart. It makes us doubt ourselves. It makes us afraid of the other. It makes us not trust. And that's a huge thing, because it's hard, because to reestablish contact with this reality, you have to reconnect to your species, which is your fellow humans. And to connect with them, you have to have something that you share with them. And if all you have is loss, you don't want to share that. You don't want anything from them, and they have nothing to give you because you're empty. So no matter what they give you, it's not something enough for you. So he offers him something. He offers him treasure. At first, he's accused of being the devil. So, because why would anybody help me? Because I'm traumatized. This is the negative self-talk. Because this is the self-blame, that somehow I must be evil. And I brought this upon myself. Now, so when you lose family like that, when you lose a wife and a son, so when we develop and start to have a family and start thinking of the world, we start thinking of it from the perspective of the family. We don't think it from our perspective. It's a very different perspective that we take. So his trauma leads him into this cave. He's on the water though. Leads him into this cave, and out of the cave, he comes out, and he doesn't want anything. He doesn't want anything from this man. This man has nothing to offer him. This man, if he was not evil, he would not have offered him anything. So the old man answered, Andrew, have you cried so hard over your misfortunes that I would like to make you a rich man? Would you like to heal? And Andrew responds, but to grant this, you must do as I say. Now the poor fisherman became afraid, for he believed the man to be the devil incarnate. So I am ready to help you, but I have to suffer for my sins. So a lot of people who are traumatized take on suffering as a part of the trauma, that somehow they belong together, that suffering must be my path. So even though he offers him a way out, a treatment of sorts, he offers him to help him. But the poor fisherman became afraid, for he believed the man to be the devil. Why should I be happy? This must be evil. He touched his crucifix and answered, right? No, I do not need your help. I'd rather remain poor than take it from you. And the person who's traumatized is always rejecting help because they're afraid. They're afraid they're going to hurt more than they already do.
Yeah, we've all been there. I can so commiserate with this fisherman where you just feel like your luck has just run out. Nothing's going right. You say the wrong stuff. You break things. You lose things. You just loss after loss after loss. And then that loss becomes your familiar. And that's where you survive, and you survive in that loss. But to try to even make an effort and risk a loss all over again, why should you even try? And you feel so defeated. We've all been in that space, and I totally feel for the fisherman.
I do too, Lisa. So much of this I can relate to in my own story, just like we all can. And the one thing that I didn't realize that was happening when I was going through it and experiencing some of the same thoughts that you just expressed was that after a while, as that suffering became the norm,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I started thinking that I deserve this. This is my fault. Somehow I am to blame for this. And therefore, there's really nothing I can do about it because it's just who I am. And that was the most devastating, for me personally, that was the most devastating of all understandings, as wrong as it was. And it, just like Dr. Lahab said a few minutes ago, you have to reconnect with your species. I'm going to remember that.
So, Eric, how do you recognize that dialogue, that self-narrative now? How do you identify it now?
I identify it now as me being, without saying anything deep about it, because I can just think of basic thoughts that I was having at the time about it once I got through it, is that, feeling that way, I now know was not truthful and not accurate, but I was stuck. I was just stuck there and couldn't move and was just accepting my fate and going to live my life out as that fate. So destined me to do, as I thought.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I reconnected back in the human race with people, especially with people that I trusted.
Mhm.
And actually it was Dr. Lahab here who I reached back out to. And after a handful of years, and that is what really got me back on the road to recovering and feeling my humanity, enjoying my humanity, appreciating my humanity for who and what I am. And I accept the bad with the good, but I'm not quitting.
Mhm.
And
Not
I thought about one of the great Churchill sayings of all time, and it was just 5 words long, but it was one of his most powerful during the war, where he said, never, never, never give up. And then he just walked off the stage. And so that's that's my little scenario.
So when we go back to the story, in this part of the story, Eric, what you're talking about is when the old man laughed and said, "You think that I am the devil? You are mixed up. You can have complete trust in me, and it will certainly turn out in your favor. So although this will help you, I want you to know that it's going to help you. You don't believe it. If you will then take this ring here and come back in 3 days from now, go right at midnight, just a short way out into the sea, you will find 3 upside down pots. You must lift up the middle one. This will redeem a poor, unfortunate, drowned soul. And that poor, unfortunate, drowned soul is the redemption of the self. This is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Redemption is finding redemption within oneself to find your way back. But he refuses his task, because to uncover that part is to be able to redeem oneself, is to forgive oneself. And so when we keep talking about the past, we haven't forgiven ourselves. When we keep blaming ourselves for the past, we haven't moved forward. Well, we are caught, as Dr. Eric said, we're stuck. We're stuck. The complex basically possesses you. You live within its confines. In between the trauma and the self-blame, you're basically tick-tocking back and forth in the same area. You're not moving. There's no movement. You're stuck. You're going back and forth in the same place. When the fisherman is stuck in that place, and this part was really interesting, Lisa. I wonder what you made out of it. Why should I bother myself, he says, with the souls of the drowned? Why are they so crazy as to be kept in a pot turned upside down? Why is it that I torture myself? Why is it that I am kept in a jar? Kept in a jar upside down in a pot. It's basically you're trapped and you're held, and the pot is on top of you, so you're upside down. You can't like push your way out of it. So because when you look, you can't move. This is a self-imposed trap. Why would I do this to myself, he says.
I go right into the shadow voice, the disbelief. I'm not going to believe that the world can be different. I'm not going to believe that I can be free. I'm not going to believe that there are colors. That's ridiculous. It's black and white. What are you saying here? That why would people want to do that? And it's that shadow that comes through and overwhelms. And in this case, in the fisherman, it's been there so long. It's a heavy blanket.
So what happens is when you're stuck within, possessed by the complex, the ego doesn't function. And so what you have is that different complexes are basically taking over. So you have a father complex that takes over. Oh, you got to take care of yourself. You got a mother complex that takes over. Oh, you got to go feed yourself. You also have the shadow, as Lisa eloquently put it. And the shadow is like, oh, you're such an idiot. This is not how to do things. You're an idiot. And if you weren't an idiot, you'd let me run things. And so now this antagonistic relationship between me and the other parts of me, these subpersonalities that have a voice, that come from a different reality. This reality outside is saying one thing, the reality inside is saying something different. The reality outside is saying, hey, you know, you could free yourself up, you could get better, you could feel better, you can make yourself rich. Feeling rich is basically feeling good. That's what it means. If you're feeling rich, that means you're feeling good, you're feeling great. Necessarily has to do with money. It's about the personal feeling of the self. It's how I reflect on me. Then he goes on to say, then he met again the flame old man. So then he became sick and landed in the hospital for 9 months. And when he came out, he was as poor as Job. And there was nothing else to do but to go begging. And that's the problem. Because it's not going to get better if it's not treated. It's going to get worse. The longer it lingers, the worse it becomes. The longer it stays, the more problematic it is. And that's one of the things that happens. When we have an opportunity to move that thing which is holding us back, we need to move that thing. We need to move that object. Lisa, what are your thoughts?
Pretty similar to that is, I mentioned earlier, where the pain becomes familiar. It becomes your home, and you bed in it. And so the idea of deserving something different or changing what is familiar to you is terrifying. And you can logically say it's not worth it. It's not real, but the inner dialogue is also saying I'm not worthy. So what you say outside and what you're saying inside can be different, but comes from the same place of a lot of pain and fear.
And what you say inside shapes the external. That's the major issue. The major issue is that inner reality, in where the voices come at you and they sound like you, they feel like you. They might not be you. They might absolutely not be you. Now they can be, but that's where Lisa brings in the shadow. That's definitely a part of you. But these pieces, these parts of the complex, these are pieces of the trauma that have severed off and embedded themselves within the psyche. This is fear, this is loneliness, this is self-hate. You know, this is what happens when you're deep, when there's so much self-loathing about what happened to you, that you're lost in it. You're lost in the pain. This is not your fault, by the way. So I don't want that to come off as you're doing this to yourself. The old man was not ready. The old man had to go and become sick. He had to go and become poor. He had to go and go begging before he goes back to the cure that would make him rich. So curing thyself is the way that we empower us, all of us. This is our self-empowerment, is curing ourselves.
I heard a saying once that was, in our darkest hour is when we are most open to change.
And that's what happened with this guy.
With this fisherman. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I had an old farmer tell me one day back years ago. I grew up on a farm. He told me, he said, son, when you're flat on your back, everything's looking up. And I've never forgotten that, because that is it, when you're flat on your back, it prepares you for being able to look up to places you haven't been looking at before.
Well, yeah, the only way to move from point A to point B is to visualize movement. You're not going to move from point A to point B if you don't visualize it. You have to see it first before you do it, because it's a trick in the mind. It's not going to come closer. You have to go towards it. The solution always is when we are closest to the pain is to go through it.
Mhm.
Well, that means to get treatment, to work through it. And this is what we do. We use Jungian advanced motor processing, JAM, and we use it to help breaking through those conflicts, those traumas, those dilemmas of being stuck, of being afraid, of having that same day come back, of having that same nightmare over and over again, that bad dream, that bad feeling, that bad taste in your mouth, that bad feeling in the pit of your stomach, that shoulder pain, that neck pain, that ankle pain. So JAMP is a treatment where what we do is we go deep within the complex, like this magician who appears to help the old man and make him rich. Basically, the story is there's at the end of the story, there's another lazy fisherman sitting there, and all he wanted to do was imitate the story. That means say all the right things, but do none of them. And that's why the lazy fisherman, the story is about lazy fisherman, the lazy fisherman doesn't succeed. So to succeed is to face your pain, is to face your fear, and to find a solution. And since there is a solution with JAMP, that solution is not hard to come by. You are welcome to reach out to us at the Institute for Conflict, at the Institute for Conflict at Gmail. But Dr. Eric is a coach. Dr. Lisa is a coach. We have several other coaches. I am a coach. There are several other people who can help you. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about the story, because the story of being stuck is an old story. And when we're stuck, we always think we're never going to get out of it because the pot is upside down.
In my mind, I rewrote the story as that you are this mysterious light that shines around and catches the eye of the old man to help somebody, and you are to go and do JAMP, and it will free you, and you will prosper, and you will not feel poor, and your ailments will be gone, and you'll live happily. And this man did not do the JAMP work. He did not do the work.
No.
He avoided. He said, no, what you're saying that this can happen if I do the work, it's not real. That's not really going to work. That's not going to happen. So he didn't do it, and he got sicker and he suffered more. And later, much later, he met that mysterious person again and actually did the task and succeeded, which is the very, very end of the story. So for me, I just substituted them. The
Yeah.
word pain champ.
Well, that's what we do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We do that. We do that in actually in a beautiful way. I think it's almost like there's a rhythm to it of the going back and forth.
Mhm.
You actually walk through this area of the unconscious, this area of fear, foreboding, feeling trapped. You're actually walking through it with the coach. They're walking you through it.
Mhm.
They're taking your hand and they're walking you out of there.
Mhm.
And by the time you reach this other place, you look back, it's gone.
Yeah.
So you have the keys to your own well-being. I know they say that a lot, but in this case, this is true. That means you have to believe that you could heal as easily as you could break. We all break.
Let's take that a step even further. The belief that you want, the desire to heal,
Mm.
the belief that you are possibly open to the change, the desire to be better and try something different.
Anything that you could hold on to,
Mhm.
any piece, any slither out there that gives you enough energy to move to that second space, which is I'm ready to go,
Mhm.
will take you out of where you're trapped.
Mhm.
It could be tiny.
It can be the tiniest sliver. It's enough. That is enough. You are enough.
Yeah, I am enough.
Mhm.
I am loved. I am worthy of love. These simple things that we say to ourselves transform who we are. I am loved. I am loved. I am
I am
light.
worthy.
I am worthy.
Mhm.
I am not afraid. I am
Mhm.
powerful. I am strong. I am smart. These things that we don't say to ourselves when we're stuck.
Mhm.
We say the opposite.
Yeah, all you need is just maybe a possible notion that can be. That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an energetic way to transform yourself.
Mhm.
When you're positive, energetically, you're different. Your charge is different. The way you move in the world is different. The way you listen to music is different. The way you're connected to other people is different. You know, you actually sing to the song, even though you don't know the words. Right. But you don't feel bad about it. You don't criticize yourself. Oh, I'm an idiot. I don't know the words of the song. It's like unnecessary.
Mhm.
You know, that's how I think about it. It's unnecessary. Why are you beating yourself up? Unnecessary. No need to do that. What do you think, Dr. Eric? What you have that look on your face? Like
Just thinking and listening, just like our listeners are, hoping that and assuming that they're thinking about this in a way that they can relate and move forward and with it and improve. One thing that I that has been running around in my head about it though is
something's been loose in your head.
yeah,
Okay.
is that
I worry.
the, I'm not afraid.
Okay.
Is that it, this change doesn't happen overnight. This kind of growth, you change in stages. And so it's not overwhelming. So it makes it more believable. It gives you hope after each moment of change. And it strengthens you, and then it prepares you for the next movement of change. And I think that was important for me to learn, because I just didn't want to feel that way at all anymore. Damn it, I want it all right now. And
But
it doesn't work that way.
but it doesn't take 10 months.
No, not saying it does.
No, I'm saying the treatment. The treatment doesn't take 10 months. The treatment needs 4 or 5 months. That's if you space it out. If you don't space it out, you could knock it out in 3 months, 2.5 months to be exact. You could even knock it out in 6 weeks. It all
And we've seen
depends
that happen.
on, yeah, and it all depends on how much you want to do, as Dr. Eric said, how much you want to tolerate, how much you want to go forward, how much you want to move forward. I think Lisa talked about this, is like, we can move forward, but we just need to hang on to something. Just hold on to something. So that initial treatment makes you feel so much better. You hold on to that feeling state and you let it drag you through the other treatment sessions. And they go by very quickly. You're basically resetting in ways that you didn't think possible. I mean, I don't know, Lisa, what were your experiences? Did you have a particular experience you think might help in this story?
Well, this story, yes. Well, the progress, the steps and growth that occurs, it feels very, it feels wonderful, and it is exhilarating, and it is very powerful. And like, as you said, it carries through. And as you said, Eric, it continues to change. Yes. And so you have to be open to how it feels differently, to let it keep expanding and growing. You can't hold it in that stasis, and you do have to let it be something different, and continue and know that, and trust the process from the very first session, knowing it does elicit great change.
That's a great point, Lisa. That really is. That's very insightful, because it, at each little step in growth, you do change, and you do have to put your arms around the different feeling states that you may have, and trust in the process, as you say, and keep going forward, because of course it's going to feel different. It's going to feel different than the way we felt before, because we're not used to it. We've been stuck. And I really appreciate you saying that and describing it the way you did.
Yeah. Sometimes we get stuck on that next thing, oh, let's just stick there. But no, yes, we must continue to let it be a little different, and it becomes more subtle, but very deep.
Yes.
It's like you drop something very big in the water. The ripples go further and further and further and further and further. You stop being able to see them, but they're changing you in ways you didn't think was possible. Because the initial part is you were stuck. You had the handbrake, the floor brake, the parking brake. You had every brake possible put in. But suddenly now you're moving. So that point in time where you were stuck, you're not at there anymore. And once that happens, everything is different, because your experiences of the world feels different. I'm more open to it. I'm more accepting of it. Therefore, my possibilities are different. My relationships are different. The way I feel about others and the way I feel about myself is different. And therefore, that affects everything that goes around me. Everything from food, drink, to friends, to intimate relationships, to non-intimate relationships, to friendships, to just being there for a person, a mentor, a friend, a teacher, a supervisor, a colleague. There are many different ways we could be there for people, you know. And those are all important. And therefore, you're able to, because you have the capacity now internally, you're not stuck. Therefore, it's not taking up all your energy. It takes up a lot of energy to be stuck. It's a lot of energy. It's like, oh, I'm not going to do anything today. Oh, I'm going to sit around here. Oh, I don't feel good today. Oh, it takes a lot of energy to be stuck in the rut. And therefore, think about how much energy you gain in the process, right? Because now there's this abundant energy for you to do stuff that you didn't even think was possible. Before, those were not possible things. I can go out, I can meet so-and-so, I can have a relationship, I can date. I was too easily triggered. I was too easily upset. I was too easily angered. I was too easily infuriated with the other person, with myself. It doesn't matter. I mean, basically, you're at war with self. That means you're at war with the world. Because you're fighting the person that you are. You're fighting basically the mirror of yourself. You're fighting fragments, pieces that are all based in the trauma, that have nothing to do with you. And that's where the illusion is the trap. The trap is you think it's you. It's not you. It's the trauma. And once you accept the idea that it's something outside of you, you're able to work through it.
It's disarmed.
Yes. Doesn't have the power that it does over you. It has the power because you think it's you. You think what happened is your fault. You think what happened you caused. You think what happened is all about you. It's not all about you. It's about the trauma. It's about the event. And it's the event that caused all the pain. It's the event that causes all the anguish and the anger, even though the event happened 20 years ago. You have basically shaped your world around you based on how you defend yourself against that event happening again. So you've basically cut off large parts of your life to feel secure. That might mean not meeting new people, not talking to people, not going out on dates, being friends, sharing a meal, hanging out with somebody, all the different things. Being angry with the people you were angry with 20 years ago, giving that up. Because that's the first thing that goes. That feeling of rage and anger that was projected outwards and inwards, that consumed you, is the first thing that goes. It's like a hot air balloon and you just punch it. Everything comes out. Or as the doggies say, woof. Everything comes out. All that comes out. You don't have to hold it inside anymore. It's out. It's out. It's out. And once it's out, it's not going to come back in. I know you're going to feel worried about that it's going to come back in. It's not going to come back in. It's gone. You've released it. You were holding it. It was holding you. Two little kids. You let go, I'll let go. The trick is you have to let go. Doesn't matter if the other person doesn't let go. They have to come to that realization. But you're not holding on to the other person. What you're holding on to is pain. And that's what you have to release. Lisa?
Just breathe it out. Whew.
Yeah, this was really good. This was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, we need to do that, right? Dr. Eric?
Yeah, this, like I said, Dr. Lahab, this is really good. This is really helpful to look at the journey of feelings that you go through and track through while this is going on. And I just love what Lisa said. I'd never heard it put in quite that way, is that this isn't about at the end, you're all of a sudden a new person. You know, you become a new person, like Lisa was describing, every step of the way. and that's kind of scary, but on the other hand, it's very encouraging and hopeful. And it's nice to not have to wait till the very end to start seeing these kinds of changes take place. And like you just described me a few seconds ago, Dr. Lahab, when because anger was the first thing that started leaving me. And
anger is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
It's draining, it causes disease, it causes all kinds of anger. Anger is a sword turned inside of you. You're basically cutting yourself up from the inside out.
Yeah. It's
anger
a cancer.
It's terrible. You know, being enraged all the time, that's terrible. It causes heart attacks.
Yes.
Yeah, it causes
ulcers.
It causes ulcers. It causes breathing issues. It causes brain bleeds. It causes. I go on all day because anger is. Because think about it. I mean, how much energy does anger have? So think about having that and holding it inside. You know, anger has much energy, you know, because it moves you in certain ways. It moves almost every piece of you. It moves towards confrontation. Well, what if you're not confronting anybody? What if you're just confronting yourself? What if you're just angry with yourself? And you hold on to it. You know, this is where pain comes in, right? Your body starts to break down. You start to feel pain.
It can be even deadlier. Yeah, it can be even deadlier.
Yeah.
Inward anger.
Yeah. Just holding anger. It doesn't matter if it's yours, if you want it for yourself, or you're holding a grudge against somebody else. It really doesn't matter. Energetically, it doesn't matter. You're holding it inside. It's the same energy you're holding inside. So whether you're upset over somebody else or you're just holding it against yourself, it doesn't matter. You're basically a nuclear reactor that has nowhere to cool off. You're going to have a meltdown. It's a matter of time. Fear is also insidious because fear will cripple you. Anger will devastate you. Fear will cripple you. You won't be able to go anywhere. And this is what's caused. This is what happens with the trauma. Because there is anger and there is fear. Why am I here? Why is this happening to me? Anger. Fear. Is this going to happen again? And what do I do with that?
Yeah, and I think that's where that fisherman was, where he was found in that state of, it's not worth the effort.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
Yeah, there's no redemption. There's no feeling better. There is no getting out of this hole. You know, this is where the unconscious is filled with gifts, right, Lisa? It gives you the solution to your problem over and over again.
Yeah, opportunities. But you know, as tragic as this story sounds, I think it's also a wonderful, beautiful story. because of the redemption.
Yeah.
He continued to fall deeper, darker than he ever thought he would. But in the end, he redeemed himself, he gave into an opportunity.
He decided that it was worth living.
Yes, he chose himself. He chose change. He chose himself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What blows my mind is that people were thinking and talking about and of course, writing about these kinds of concepts and experiences hundreds and thousands of years ago. I've always had the mindset, man, people 2,000 years ago didn't deal with this kind of stuff. Well, yes, they did. and they wrote beautifully about it. And it's just amazing that humans were thinking like this so long ago.
Yeah, this is why the collective unconscious is so powerful, is because these stories are not new. You didn't just come up with this. Somebody just wrote this. This is a very old story. This is a story since the beginning of time. This is the same story told in 1001 ways. All these stories, they're told in different ways. They have the same effect. And the effect is awakening. Do we plan to be awakened? Do we want to be, what is the term of the day for young people? Being woke. This is what it's about. It's waking up to the possibility that you don't have to be in the position that you are in. You don't have to be stuck. You don't have to keep staring at the same thing over and over and over and over again and saying, I can't do anything about that. It's not true. You could break that barrier. You could break the barrier of pain and suffering for yourself and for everybody who lives around you. Because everybody who's around you is affected by your pain and suffering. So from the micro to the macro, if you look at from a village where you have 10 people who are suffering and there's 100 people, that means exponentially, those 10 people are affecting the entire village. And so the entire village is suffering. It's because it expands, because of the contagion effect, because psychic pain and suffering spreads.
Yes.
It spreads. It's detrimental to society in general. Fear, paranoia. I mean, our society.
We've all experienced that in parties or groups of people where someone can walk into a room and just change the tone of the room just by their presence.
Absolutely.
You can tell the people who are coming in open, energized, and just spreading the waves, and it creates a buzz almost with everybody else's energy starts to shift as well. You can also tell when someone is just gloomy and down, and there's this level of intensity that occurs, and it can change the tone of the room. This is just how we emote. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you carry it with you, Lisa. You carry it for a couple of days, like, oh, I hated that party. Made me so depressed. It's like, yeah, you got it at the party.
Some weird conversations.
Exactly. So you got it at the party, but that cold lasted 3-4 days. It's like a cold. And you're still sneezing. It's like, oh, I hated that party. Oh, I'll never go again. Instead of saying, wow, that was the greatest party I've ever had.
Yeah.
Because it depends. Right? So that's why we need to heal the world. That's why we need to heal each other. That's why we need to come together. And that's what we at the Institute for Conflict do. This is what we think about. This is what we eat and drink. Is that the world needs healing. That is the most important thing in the world. Healing the world, feeling better about yourself makes you feel better about everything else. You say hi to people. You make somebody smile who was sad, somebody who was scared and lonely. not so lonely for that moment. There's a person in the neighborhood who, in Magnolia in Seattle, who puts up signs for people who are depressed and want to commit suicide. So, because that's where he was. So he puts up signs everywhere. You're not alone. You are loved. You know, to make them change their mind.
Yeah.
So the words, those words are so meaningful. They're so important for all of us. So with that, we are going to be back next week. You could reach out to us at the Institute for Conflict, one word, at gmail.com. If you have questions for Dr. Eric or Dr. Lisa or myself, we are happy to field questions. We're happy to read your questions on the air and discuss them. If you're interested in a story and you want to give us details of the story, we'd love to hear them. We are also on YouTube if you want to watch the video cast, the Zoom cast of the event. So we have a podcast, but this is also a Zoom cast, so you could see us staring at each other through these 3 windows. We're all in different places. So with that, I am Dr. Lahab Al-Samarrai. This is the Institute for Conflict's Individuation podcast. And as we always send off, I am not afraid.
I am not afraid.
I am not afraid.
And we are not afraid. We are the Institute for Conflict. And this is the Individuation podcast. And we will see you, or we will speak to you next week. Have a good one.